The night was pitch black, and a dense fog hung in the air, shrouding the deserted highway. Sam had been driving for hours, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. He desperately needed to find a gas station, and his GPS indicated one just a few miles ahead. As he approached, the ominous glow of neon lights pierced through the fog, revealing a dilapidated gas station that seemed frozen in time. Relieved to find refuge, Sam pulled up to the ancient pumps, their metal creaking and groaning as if waking from a long slumber. The place was eerie, like a scene from an abandoned horror movie set. Sam hesitated but ultimately decided to fuel up, not wanting to risk running out of gas on this desolate stretch of road. He grabbed the rusted nozzle and began pumping gas. The wind howled, creating an unsettling symphony of eerie noises. He glanced around, noticing an old, flickering neon sign that read, "Last Stop Gas and Mart." The building looked like it had seen better days, with cracked windows and faded paint. As Sam filled the tank, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. He scanned the area, but saw no one. Just the empty parking lot and the distant highway, shrouded in fog. The gas station's entrance beckoned him with a dull, buzzing fluorescent light. He decided to grab a coffee to help stay awake for the rest of the journey. The door jingled as he pushed it open, and a wave of musty air filled his nostrils. Inside, the store was a time capsule of outdated products and peeling wallpaper. Behind the counter stood an elderly man, hunched and frail. His eyes, however, held a strange intensity that sent a shiver down Sam's spine. "Evening," the old man croaked, his voice scratchy like sandpaper. "What brings you out here on a night like this?" Sam muttered a greeting, trying to sound polite despite his unease. "Just needed some gas and a coffee." The old man nodded and gestured toward the coffee machine in the corner. "Help yourself, it's on the house." Sam filled a styrofoam cup with coffee, the smell of burnt beans permeating the air. As he turned to leave, he couldn't help but glance at the rows of dusty, outdated items lining the shelves. It was as though this place had been forgotten by time. Back outside, Sam was startled to see a figure standing by his car. A woman, her face obscured by the hood of her tattered jacket, stood in the flickering light. She held out her hand, her voice trembling. "Please, can you give me a ride? My car broke down, and I've been waiting for hours." Sam hesitated, torn between his instinct to help and the unsettling feeling that something was off. He glanced back at the gas station, where the old man was now watching them through the window. With a sigh, he unlocked the car doors, and the woman climbed in. As they drove, the woman introduced herself as Emily. She spoke little, only revealing that she was heading to the next town, a few miles down the road. The fog seemed to thicken as they drove, making the journey even more surreal. As they approached their destination, Emily suddenly gripped Sam's arm, her voice trembling. "Stop the car. Please, just stop." Startled, Sam slammed on the brakes, bringing the car to a screeching halt. Emily jumped out and ran toward a dimly lit house at the edge of the road. Confused and concerned, Sam watched as she banged on the door, pleading to be let in. A shadowy figure appeared in the doorway, and Emily was welcomed inside. Sam's heart raced as he realized the house was the only building around for miles. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had just dropped her off at a place he shouldn't have. Determined to make sure she was safe, Sam parked his car a safe distance away and kept an eye on the house. Hours passed, and the fog grew thicker. The old gas station owner had come out and was now standing beside him, watching the house with an eerie smile on his face. Finally, the front door of the house creaked open, and Emily emerged, but she wasn't alone. Several other figures followed her, all hooded and moving with an unnatural, slow gait. They formed a circle in the front yard, their movements synchronized and surreal. Sam's heart pounded in his chest as he watched in horror. He knew he had to leave, but fear rooted him to the spot. The old man from the gas station now stood beside him, his eyes gleaming with malevolence. With a sudden burst of courage, Sam turned and fled to his car. He sped away from the nightmarish scene, the eerie glow of the gas station fading into the fog behind him. As he drove, he couldn't help but wonder what sinister secrets lurked in that forsaken place, and what would have happened if he had stayed just a moment longer. The full moon hung low in the night sky, casting an eerie glow over the desolate highway. Mark had been driving for hours, the monotony of the road threatening to lull him to sleep. He desperately needed to find a gas station, and his GPS indicated one just a few miles ahead. As he approached, a flickering neon sign emerged from the darkness, revealing Gas Haven. Relieved, Mark pulled into the dimly lit gas station. The place seemed ancient, like a relic from the past. The pumps creaked and groaned as he parked beside them. He glanced around, taking in the cracked pavement and flickering lights that added to the unsettling atmosphere. With a sigh, Mark grabbed the fuel nozzle and started pumping gas. The wind howled, and the distant trees rustled in a ghostly chorus. He checked his phone for messages, trying to pass the time as the tank filled. That's when he heard it, the faintest whisper of a voice carried by the wind. "Help me," Mark's head snapped up, scanning the area. It was so quiet, he thought he might have imagined it. Just the empty parking lot and the old gas station, with its faded Gas Haven sign. He shook off the unease and continued pumping gas. When he finished, he decided to grab a snack from the dimly lit convenience store attached to the gas station. The door jingled as he entered, and the smell of stale cigarettes and burnt coffee assaulted his senses. Inside, the shelves were stocked with dusty, outdated products, and the cashier stood behind a glass counter, his face obscured by shadows. "Evening," Mark greeted, trying to sound friendly despite the strange vibes he was getting. The cashier, an elderly man with tired eyes, simply nodded in response. Mark grabbed a bag of chips and a soda and headed to the counter. As the cashier rang up his items, Mark couldn't help but glance around the store. It was like stepping back in time, with magazines from years ago and faded posters of long-forgotten movies. Back outside, Mark sat in his car, snacking on his chips and sipping his soda. He felt a sense of unease that he couldn't quite shake. The night was still, and the gas station seemed devoid of any other customers. He wondered if he should leave, but his tank was full, and he had a long drive ahead. Just as he was about to start the engine, he heard it again, the faint voice, almost drowned out by the wind. "Help me, please." Mark's heart raced as he scanned the area. It was coming from the direction of the convenience store. He couldn't ignore it this time. He got out of the car and cautiously approached the store. Inside, the cashier was nowhere to be seen. The store was empty, except for a flickering fluorescent light that cast eerie shadows on the floor. The voice was getting louder, more desperate. "Help me, please, someone, anyone." Mark followed the sound, which led him to a door at the back of the store. He pushed it open, revealing a small, dimly lit room. In the corner, huddled in the shadows, was a woman. She was trembling, her clothes torn and dirty. "Are you okay?" Mark asked, his voice trembling as he stepped closer. The woman looked up, her eyes wide with fear. "They are coming, they are always coming. You have to help me." Before Mark could respond, he heard a shuffling noise behind him. He turned to see the cashier, his face now revealed in the dim light. But it wasn't the face of an elderly man. It was a grotesque, twisted visage, contorted with malice. Mark stumbled back in horror as the cashier's voice joined the woman's, both of them chanting in an eerie, otherworldly language. Panic surged through him, and he turned to run, but the door slammed shut, trapping him in the small room. The room seemed to warp and shift around him, and Mark felt a presence closing in on him from all sides. He screamed, but his voice was drowned out by the chanting. The last thing he saw before everything went dark was the flickering, gas haven sign through the window, a mocking beacon in the night.